I still remember the day like it was yesterday. The sun was barely peeking through the clouds, casting a gloomy shadow over the small, quiet town of Meadowgrove. I was standing in the pouring rain, my heart pounding like a drum in my chest. The cold drops mixed with the hot tears streaming down my face. I had just received the news that my best friend, Jamie, had been in a terrible car accident. The doctors said it was touch and go, and I felt like my world was crumbling around me. Jamie wasn't just my best friend, he was my confidant, my rock, and the person who knew me better than anyone else. As I stood there, drenched and shivering, I couldn't help but think about the first time we met. It was in high school during a particularly boring chemistry class. He had this infectious laugh, and when he smiled, it was like the whole room lit up. We clicked instantly, and from that day forward, we were inseparable. But there was something more, something I had never admitted to anyone, not even to myself. The first time Jamie touched me, it was like an electric shock ran through my body. We were just kids, roughhousing in the park, and he playfully tackled me to the ground. His hand brushed against mine, and in that moment, I knew. I knew that this feeling was something special, something that would stay with me forever. But I was too scared to say anything. I was terrified of what people would think, of how they would react. So I kept it buried deep inside, hoping that one day I would find the courage to tell him. Years passed, and we grew closer, sharing every secret, every dream, every fear. But I never found the courage to tell him how I truly felt. And now, as I stood in the rain, the thought of losing him forever was unbearable. I rushed to the hospital, my mind racing with a million thoughts. What if he didn't make it? What if I never got the chance to tell him how I felt? The hospital was a blur of white coats and beeping machines. I found his room, and there he was, hooked up to all sorts of tubes and monitors. He looked so fragile, so vulnerable. I took his hand, and even though he was unconscious, I felt that same electric shock. It was like a wake-up call, a sign that I couldn't keep this secret any longer. I leaned in close, my voice barely above a whisper. "Jamie, it's me. I need to tell you something. I should have told you a long time ago, but I was scared. I was scared of what you would think, of what everyone would think. But I can't keep it inside anymore. The first time you touched me, I knew it was forever. I love you, Jamie. I love you more than anything in this world." Tears streamed down my face as I poured out my heart to him. I didn't know if he could hear me, but I had to say it. I had to let him know how I felt, even if it was too late. As I sat there, holding his hand, I felt a slight squeeze. My heart skipped a beat. Was it just my imagination, or did he really squeeze my hand? I looked up at his face, and to my astonishment, his eyes fluttered open. He looked at me, his gaze soft and tender. "I heard you," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "I heard every word. And I love you too, more than anything in this world." In that moment, everything changed. The fear, the doubt, the uncertainty, it all melted away. All that mattered was that we were together, and we would face whatever came next side by side. It was a journey neither of us had expected, but it was a journey we were ready to take. As Jamie's eyes fluttered open and he whispered those words, I felt like the world had shifted beneath my feet. The beeping of the hospital machines faded into the background, and it was just the two of us, suspended in a moment that felt both incredibly fragile and unbelievably profound. I squeezed his hand tighter, as if to reassure myself that this was real, that he was really here, and that he had actually heard me. His fingers were cold, but his grip was surprisingly strong, and it sent a wave of relief washing over me. But just as quickly as the relief came, it was replaced by a surge of panic. What now? What did this mean for us, for our friendship, for our future? I had spent so many years hiding my feelings, building walls around my heart, that I didn't know how to navigate this new territory. I looked into Jamie's eyes, and I saw a reflection of my own fears and uncertainties. We were both treading on unfamiliar ground, and it was terrifying. Just then, a nurse walked in, breaking the spell of our moment. She smiled at us, her eyes crinkling at the corners. "It's good to see you awake, Jamie," she said softly, checking his vitals. "You had us all worried there for a while." She turned to me, her smile warm and reassuring. "You must be Alex. He's been asking for you." I felt a lump form in my throat. He had been asking for me. Even in his unconscious state, he had been thinking of me. The nurse finished her checks and left us alone, the door clicking shut behind her. I turned back to Jamie, my mind racing. "Jamie, I don't know what to do," I admitted, my voice shaking. "I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be us." He looked at me, his eyes filled with understanding. "Neither do I, Alex," he said softly. "But I think we just take it one step at a time. We've always figured things out together, haven't we?" I nodded, remembering all the adventures we had been on, all the challenges we had faced side by side. He was right. We could figure this out too. But just as I was starting to feel a sense of calm, the door burst open again. This time it was Jamie's mom, her face pale and her eyes wide with worry. She rushed to his side, tears streaming down her face. "Jamie, oh my God, you're awake," she cried, hugging him tightly. I stepped back, feeling like an intruder in this intimate moment, but Jamie reached out his hand, beckoning me to stay. I hesitated, then took his hand, feeling a sense of belonging that I had never felt before. His mom looked at me, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you, Alex," she said softly. "Thank you for being here." I smiled at her, feeling a sense of acceptance that I had never expected. But little did I know, this was just the beginning of a journey that would test us in ways we never imagined. As Jamie's mom stayed by his side, I excused myself to grab some coffee from the hospital cafeteria. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting a harsh glow on the sterile environment. I poured myself a cup, the dark liquid steaming in the cold air. As I took a sip, I felt a hand on my shoulder. I turned around to see Jamie's dad, his expression serious but kind. "Alex, can we talk?" he asked, gesturing to an empty table in the corner. I nodded, following him over. We sat down and he took a deep breath before speaking. "Alex, I know you and Jamie are close, and I know you care about him deeply." I braced myself, unsure of where this conversation was headed. "But you need to understand, this isn't going to be easy. People in this town, they might not accept this. They might not accept you too." His words hit me like a punch to the gut. I had always known that our small town was conservative, but hearing it said so bluntly was a harsh wake-up call. I looked down at my coffee, feeling a mix of anger and fear churning inside me. "I know," I said softly, "but I can't deny how I feel. I can't deny who I am, who we are." Jamie's dad looked at me, his eyes filled with a mix of concern and respect. "I'm not asking you to deny anything, Alex. I'm just asking you to be prepared, to be strong, because you too are going to need that strength in the days to come." I returned to Jamie's room, my mind heavy with his dad's words. As I walked in, I saw Jamie smiling, his mom holding his hand. They both looked up at me, their faces filled with warmth and acceptance. I took a deep breath, pushing away the fears and doubts. I was here, Jamie was alive, and that was all that mattered right now. Over the next few days, Jamie's recovery was slow but steady. He was moved out of the ICU and into a regular room. We spent hours talking, laughing, and reminiscing about old times, but we also talked about the future, about what this meant for us. We decided to take things slow, to give ourselves time to navigate this new territory. But even as we tried to take things slow, the world around us seemed determined to rush us. Rumors started to spread around town, whispers and side glances that made it clear not everyone was happy about our relationship. One day, as I was walking back from the hospital cafeteria, I overheard a group of nurses talking. "It's just not right," one of them said, her voice hushed but venomous. "They're just friends. They can't be, you know." Another nurse chimed in. "I heard his parents are supporting this. It's just wrong." I felt a surge of anger but also a deep sadness. This was what Jamie's dad had warned me about. This was the reality we were facing. I rushed back to Jamie's room, my heart pounding. I didn't want to tell him what I had heard, but I knew I had to. We had always been honest with each other, and that wasn't going to change now. As I walked in, Jamie looked up at me, his eyes filled with concern. "Alex, what's wrong?" he asked, reaching out his hand. I took it, feeling that familiar electric shock. I took a deep breath and told him everything. His face fell, but there was a determination in his eyes that I had never seen before. "We knew this wasn't going to be easy, Alex," he said softly. "But we're in this together, and we're going to face whatever comes our way, side by side." His words filled me with a renewed sense of strength and purpose. We were in this together, and nothing was going to tear us apart. But even as we braced ourselves for the challenges ahead, we had no idea just how much our world was about to change. In the weeks that followed, Jamie's recovery continued to progress steadily, but our relationship was put to the test in ways we never imagined. The whispers and side glances in the hospital were just the beginning. As Jamie was finally discharged and we returned to our daily lives in Meadowgrove, we found ourselves facing a barrage of judgment and hostility from people we had known our entire lives. Friends turned their backs on us, neighbors crossed the street to avoid us, and even some family members struggled to accept our new reality. It was a harsh wake-up call to the prejudice that still existed in our small town. One day, as we were walking through the park, a place that had always been our sanctuary, we were confronted by a group of guys we had gone to high school with. They blocked our path, their faces twisted in anger and disgust. "You two make me sick," one of them spat, his voice dripping with venom. "This isn't right, it's not natural." Jamie stepped forward, his voice steady and calm. "What's not natural is your hatred," he said, his eyes locked on the guy. "We're not hurting anyone. We're just living our lives the same as you." The guy scoffed, but before he could say anything else, another voice cut through the tension. "Leave them alone, Mike." We turned to see one of our old friends, Sarah, stepping forward. She had always been kind and accepting, but seeing her stand up for us in that moment filled me with a warmth I couldn't describe. Mike and his friends backed down, muttering under their breath as they walked away. Sarah turned to us, her eyes filled with apology. "I'm so sorry, you guys," she said softly. "People can be so ignorant." We thanked her, feeling a glimmer of hope that maybe not everyone in Meadowgrove was against us. But even with Sarah's support, the constant judgment and hostility began to take a toll. Jamie started to withdraw, his once vibrant spirit dimming under the weight of the town's disapproval. I could see the pain in his eyes, the struggle to stay strong in the face of so much hatred. It broke my heart to see him like this, and I knew I had to do something. One night, as we sat in Jamie's room, the silence heavy between us, I took his hand. "Jamie, we can't keep living like this," I said softly. "We can't let them win, we can't let them take away our happiness." He looked at me, his eyes filled with tears. "I know, Alex," he whispered. "But it's so hard. It's so hard to face this every day." I squeezed his hand, feeling a surge of determination. "Then we won't face it every day," I said, my voice filled with resolve. "We'll leave. We'll start fresh somewhere new, somewhere we can be ourselves without fear, without judgment." Jamie looked at me, his eyes wide with surprise. "Leave Meadow Grove?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I nodded, my heart pounding. "Yes, we'll leave Meadow Grove. We'll find a place where we can be happy, where we can be free. We'll build a new life together." The idea was scary, but also exhilarating. It was a chance for us to start over, to escape the judgment and hostility that had become our daily reality. Jamie looked at me, his eyes filled with a mix of fear and excitement. "Okay," he said softly, "let's do it. Let's start a new life together." In that moment, I felt a sense of hope and possibility that I hadn't felt in a long time. We were taking control of our lives, our future, and nothing was going to stop us. But even as we made our plans to leave, we had no idea just how much more our journey would test us. As we began to plan our escape from Meadow Grove, we were filled with a mix of excitement and trepidation. We spent hours researching cities, looking for a place that would accept us, that would allow us to live and love freely. We settled on a vibrant city a few hours away, known for its diversity and acceptance. We started to pack our things, keeping our plans a secret from everyone except Sarah, who supported us wholeheartedly. She promised to visit us as soon as we were settled, and her unwavering support gave us the strength we needed to take this leap. The day we left Meadow Grove was bittersweet. We drove away from the town that had been our home, our sanctuary, and our prison, all rolled into one. As we hit the open road, I felt a sense of freedom I had never experienced before. We rolled down the windows, letting the wind rush in, and we sang along to our favorite songs at the top of our lungs. It felt like we were finally alive, finally free to be ourselves. The city was everything we had hoped for and more. We found a cozy apartment in a bustling neighborhood, and we quickly fell in love with the energy and acceptance of our new home. We joined an LGBTQ+ support group, where we met other couples who had gone through similar journeys. We shared our stories, our struggles, and our triumphs, and we found a community that embraced us with open arms. But even as we settled into our new life, we knew that our journey was far from over. We faced new challenges, new struggles, but we faced them together. And with each passing day, we grew stronger, both as individuals and as a couple. We learned to navigate the ups and downs of our relationship, to communicate openly and honestly, and to support each other through every challenge that came our way. And through it all, we never forgot that first moment, that electric shock that had changed our lives forever. One day, as we sat in our apartment, surrounded by the life we had built together, I turned to Jamie. "Do you ever think about that day in the park?" I asked softly. "The day you tackled me to the ground and our hands touched for the first time." Jamie looked at me, his eyes filled with warmth and love. "Every day," he said, a soft smile playing on his lips. "That was the day I knew, Alex. That was the day I knew it was forever." I felt tears well up in my eyes, tears of joy and gratitude. We had come so far, faced so many challenges, and yet here we were, stronger and more in love than ever. As we look back on our journey, we can't help but feel a sense of awe and wonder. We never imagined that our lives would take this path, that we would face so many obstacles and come out stronger on the other side. But we did, and we did it together. So, if you're watching this video, if you're on your own journey of self-discovery and love, know that you're not alone. Know that there is a community out there waiting to embrace you, to support you, and to help you navigate the challenges ahead. And remember, the first time he touched me, I knew it was forever. And it was. It truly was. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more stories of love, acceptance, and triumph. And be sure to watch our other videos and comment down below with your favorite part of this video. We love hearing from you, and we can't wait to share more of our journey with you. Until next time, stay strong, stay true to yourself, and never give up on love.